The idea that I am never separated from God means I live from a place of peace, comfort, and love. That is not wishful thinking. That is not spiritual bypassing. That is what a 14th-century German mystic spent his entire life pointing toward, and what got him brought before the Inquisition for being too radical about it. His name was Meister Eckhart, and his idea, the one that disturbed the church then and still disturbs the ego now, is this: you have never been separated from God. Not for a single moment, not in your darkest hour, not in your worst failure, not in your most profound uncertainty, not ever. Welcome to Ascend and Awaken, timeless wisdom for awakening and inner peace. Who was Meister Eckhart? Meister Eckhart was born in Germany around 1260. He was a Dominican friar, a scholar, a preacher, a theologian of the highest order. He knew the church's language and its rules. He operated entirely within the Christian tradition, and yet what he taught was so radical, so far beyond the conventional religious understanding of his time, that near the end of his life, the Pope launched an investigation into his writings for heresy. Eckhart died before the verdict was delivered, but his words survived. And 7 centuries later, they are still quietly shattering the assumptions of everyone who encounters them. This is because Eckhart wasn't teaching a new religion. He was pointing to something the ego finds deeply threatening. The truth is that there is no distance between you and God, and there never was. Here is the teaching that made the church nervous. Eckhart spoke of what he called the ground of the soul, the deepest, most interior place within every human being, the place beneath thought, beneath feeling, beneath personality, beneath everything the world has told you that you are. And he said something that echoes through 7 centuries straight into this moment. God's ground is my ground, and my ground is God's ground. God is near you. Not God is watching over you from somewhere else. God's ground and your ground are the same ground. There is no gap. There is no distance. There is no separation. This is not pantheism, the idea that everything is God in a vague, general sense. Eckhart is saying something much more precise and personal. At the deepest level of who you are, before you became this particular person with this particular story, you and God shared the same foundation, the same root, the same being. In the ground, the divide between the divine and the human does not hold, for there is no distinction, no creator and creature, only the one. Here is where Eckhart's teaching connects to something you may already feel in your experience. He taught that God does not exist in the past or the future. God exists only in the eternal now. And, this is the part that changes everything, so do you. The part of you that worries about the future is the ego. The part of you that replays the past is the ego. But the deepest part of you, the ground of your soul, exists only here, only now, in this present moment that has no beginning and no end. To be receptive to the highest truth, a person must be without before and after, empty and free, receiving the divine gift in the eternal now. This is why Eckhart's teaching connects so naturally to contemplative prayer, to silence, to the practice of presence that the Desert Fathers devoted their lives to. Because in the eternal now, in the place beneath all your thoughts about God, God is simply there, not as an object of worship, not as a distant deity to be approached carefully, as the very ground you are standing on. Eckhart said something that may be the most beautiful and most radical thing any Christian mystic has ever said. The eye wherein I see God is the same eye wherein God sees me. My eye and God's eye are one eye, one vision, one knowing, one love. Sit with that for a moment. The eye you use to look toward God and the eye God uses to look at you are the same eye. You are not standing on one side of a great divide looking across at God on the other side. You are the looking itself. The awareness that reaches toward God and the awareness that is God reaching toward you. Eckhart says they are one movement, one knowing, one love. This is what he meant by radical. Not radical as shocking or provocative. Radical as in going to the root, the Latin word radix, the deepest root of what is true. And the deepest root of what is true, Eckhart says, is that you and God have never been two separate things looking at each other across a gap. You have always been one. If we are never separated from God, then what is all the suffering about? What is all the seeking about? What is the spiritual path even for? Eckhart's answer is precise. Separation is not a reality. It is a belief. A case of mistaken identity so thorough and so old that it feels like reality. If the soul is to know God, it must forget itself and lose itself. For as long as it contemplates self, it cannot contemplate God. The self that feels separated, the worried, striving, achieving, failing, comparing self. That self is not your deepest self. It is the surface, the appearance. The wave on the ocean that has forgotten it is the ocean. The spiritual path, in Eckhart's understanding, is not a journey from separation to union. It is a gradual recognition that union was always the case. You are not trying to return back to God. You are learning to stop believing you ever left. And this is where Eckhart's teaching stops being philosophy and becomes, as it was always meant to be, a way of living. When you begin to sense, even slightly, even imperfectly, that the ground of your being is God's ground, something shifts. The anxiety that comes from feeling fundamentally alone in the universe begins to loosen. The desperate seeking, constantly looking for something that will finally make you feel whole, begins to quiet. Because what you were seeking was never elsewhere. It was always here, in the ground, in the eternal now, in the place that has never been touched by separation, because separation was never real. Now rejoice, all ye powers of my soul, that you are so united with God that no one may separate you from him. No one, nothing, not circumstance, not failure, not doubt, not the chaos of the world, not ever. That is Meister Eckhart's radical idea, and it was never really an idea at all. It is the truth of what you are. Today, I want to leave you with just one thing, not an exercise, not a practice, just one question to carry into your day. What if the peace, the comfort, and the love you are searching for are not somewhere ahead of you, but are the very ground you are already standing on? Sit with that, gently, without forcing an answer. And notice what is already here. Thank you for spending this time with me on Ascend and Awaken. Share in the comments. Has the idea of never being separated from God ever truly resonated with you? I would genuinely love to hear your experience. If Ascend and Awaken supports your journey, consider subscribing for more reflections on timeless wisdom, spiritual awakening, and inner peace. Peace, love, and light to you on your spiritual journey.